Yeah, all right. So this is going to be kind of a free-form conversation, and hopefully with two mics it won't be too awkward for us. So just grab away at a microphone if you need one. But some of us have already started kind of having this conversation of like, what is this relationship between community and music, and community and instruments? And so I'm going to bring out some oddball questions and some other ones that to kind of like bring the conversation forward. But one of the things that we were talking about, Aaron, just before this was we were talking about the different types of genres of music, and we were just talking about like Detroit techno versus Chicago house and those kinds of things. And that's where like, those came around during that turntable kind of time period where there wasn't an internet. And I'm wondering, like, you're working with ModBap right now, so how does this ability to connect and communicate with people affect the community itself? It's no longer like geographically isolated?
Yeah, exactly. So I do ModBap along with some other group, a large group of people. It's only 15 of us right now. But other people are kind of catching on because of the internet. So ModBap, if you don't know, it's modular synthesis mixed with boom bap. Boom bap is hip hop that was really popular in the 90s with the, that kind of vibe. And so we've been doing it for years, our group, and we've been putting it on Instagram, and we have the hashtag ModBap crew, and it's like spreading like wildfire. Like we have people in Paris, people in Asia, everywhere, like hitting us up saying, "Oh, how do I make it? How do I do this? Like, is this ModBap?" And like, and it's like it's completely different. It would have been a completely different result had we not had that form of social media and communication over the internet. I mean, it may have been geographical. It may have just been a Chicago thing or a LA thing, but it's everywhere. And yeah.
Yeah. So are you seeing like? Is it maybe too early, or are you seeing like different variants of ModBap? Like, and then how is that differentiated? Because before it was like there's the Chicago, there's the Detroit, there's the Atlanta, that kind of thing. Is it that geographic anymore, or is it just like this is Aaron's version?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's like it's borderless.
Yeah.
It's more of that person's emotional connection with the genre, emotional connection with their modular system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so along those lines, there's this this book, an ebook that Andres Sirois, I think is how you pronounce his name. It's called Hip Hop DJs and the Evolution of Technology. And this is what kind of started getting me asking about that along those lines. And he talks about things like cultural exchange, innovation, and the democratization of this. And he talked about how DJs are the technology. And I was wondering, thinking that through, like, if we're thinking about people as the culture, and the relationship with our instruments as the technologies, and if we're saying that we are the technology, do we agree with that? What do we think of that? It's one of my weird questions.
I mean, for me, technology is a tool that extends what we do. So word processor is a tool that extends our ability to write. So for me, music technology is a tool that extends our ability to do music. So. But also, I think technology is good as much as how our musicianship. So so I don't think I'm like I am the technology, but I think I am a musician specialized in technology. And talking about the community and this thing, something that I'm really seeing here is that with the student is that if you think about it, there's a lot of houses that do not have piano anymore, but everybody makes music, can make music with the computer. So in a way, making music with the technology is already part of our life. Like making it into the primary, priority in your life is your choice, but there is already, music, music making process, making existing, community of music makers through technology already built in, and it's very accessible. It's it's something that we can do in many. Yes, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I've grew up playing the piano and the organ, and I always wanted to play, but I didn't have the patience. And I think now, through this technology, with this modular that I've been to for about 3 years, it has reintroduced me, this technology has reintroduced me to play music and really discover I am a musician, but I'm more of a scientist, because I like to fiddle, I like to play, I like the real textile feeling of the synthesizer, because I've had several synthesizer boards and Rolands over the years, and keyboards, but this technology has really done it for me.
It's a tool to extend what you do as a musician, and
Yes.
that's exactly what it's doing right now. Yes,
Yes.
so that's, I think.
To touch on what Joe was saying in the author, I think what the author means, and this is my opinion, but I think that they mean the body as a system and the brain, and how each individual has a unique brain. No two brains on Earth are alike, it's scientific fact. And so therefore, you might be playing the same musical instrument, but you might play it in a different way than somebody else would, because you are the instrument, meaning your system, your brain, the way your body works, so you think it might be different. So I think maybe that's what my opinion is.
Well, it's kind of a Rorschach test. If you give $2,000 to 50 different people, and said, go build a modular, you would have 50 different systems.
Yeah.
And the music, the sound would be 50 different sounds. So you can almost, I'm interested in your kids, because this would be a great way to speak their frustrations, to articulate their dreams in terms of waveforms by making whatever comes to their minds at the time. It doesn't have to be like a hip hop thing. I don't know if you guys are doing like any West Coast sort of stuff.
Oh, so the ModBat thing is my thing.
Okay.
So the
Tell us more about that.
classes about ModBat?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's modular synthesis and hip hop. So like we approach the modular in a slightly different way than you do. Like I see the modular, because I grew up listening to a lot of records. So Morton Subotnick, like those records, and like all of like the weird John Cage records, like always interested me. But we didn't have I didn't have the internet. It didn't exist, right? So I couldn't really fully picture what was going on. So in my head, it was just these scientists like kind of making this stuff. And they were
Inaccessible is what you're saying.
right, but they didn't seem like musicians. I didn't understand that it was music. I thought they were like it's like this very technical thing. So when I look at the modular, I imagine it as a creative records, as a creative infinite possibilities of sounds that I can generate. But then I take it and capture the moments and put it in the context of hip hop. So I use a lot of samplers inside of the modular as well. But I do have a lot of systems that generate.
So you've reframed it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, and I have a bunch of different cases, I'll get to that later, but upstairs, but yeah, like the way I look at your case is just like, it's a bunch of records to me. Yeah.
I wonder if that's what Andre Sirois is talking about, is that's the sort of the artist as the instrument, as the approach, the technique is just as valid and just as much part of the technology ecosystem as that, and how one might use those. And I wonder if you're bumping into any limitations because these instruments have come out of a certain heritage. When you're trying to make ModBat, are you bumping into any like technical issues because these were designed with certain other kinds of assumptions, social or otherwise?
Oh,
Behind that.
wow, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's one of the cool things about hip hop is that we're always taking it and reappropriating it and reusing it and bending it to the way that we want to. So, if I can't do it in the modular, then I'll bring out an old school sampler and I'll do it there. I'll do some other techniques, but we're using both traditional modular techniques and older hip hop techniques and mixing them together. So, cool.
Ever since electronic music began, there has been the belief that this is a way to bring the composer and the performance of the music together, that there is no translator in between. If you compose it, you play it, and you are straight to the audience as opposed to having an orchestra or somebody play the piano of your piece for you. It is your way to get directly to the music.
Cool. Yeah, and sort of along those lines. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Aaron, I have a question about, I served with City here in Chicago, and so I'm pretty familiar with CPS and just how it works there. How did you begin your relationship in getting into like an institution, like a school system?
The Old Town School of Folk Music.
So it was through a community organization?
Right, so the Old Town School of Folk Music has a really big history in Chicago. They started off doing folk music and teaching like banjo and things like that, but they've grown to incorporate electronic music and such. And they're actually a nonprofit, and they have a bunch of subsidiaries. So there's another nonprofit called iGrow in Chicago, which is a peace house. And that peace house is where the community can come and they don't have to fear like gun violence. They can do things like yoga, they can meditate. And so I'm working with these two organizations to. Oh, and then of course I got my clearance through the Old Town School of Folk Music, and then that's how I'm able to enter the Chicago Public School. Yeah.
So I have to mention about folk music because there's this, it's called, I forget, but it's still right. It's that electronic music is today's folk music. I mean, we make it, as we don't, when you start going to technology, you just basically play, right? So, I'm so happy to hear that the organization is supporting your cause. Yeah. That's good.
I have a question that kind of riffs off of the reference to folk, accessibility, and then the tie to youth. So one of the trends I see and struggle with myself, somebody who does music DJs or something, is the trend where us adults bring really cool, awesome stuff to young people, and they get to try it, and then we leave and we take the stuff with us. And then we say, maybe someday you can say about $2,000 and get a DJ setup, or you know what I mean? So I'm wondering, and I'm excited to hear a lot of references to communities and youth out there. So I'm just wondering how each of you negotiate that constraint and try to increase accessibility for youth so that they don't need us adults always with them in order to be creative.
Well, that's great. We're working on it right now. Have you heard of the S1 Synth Gallery? the Synth Library in Portland. So it was started, I'd say about like 6 years ago by Felicia and Melissa. And they have this synth library where they have this collection of synthesizers where the community can come and use them. They can make music with them. For now, they can't check them out, but they've been able to make clones of this library over in Prague and a couple other places. And we're working on making one in Chicago on the south side and one on the north side. And we've been studying your Ann Arbor library, and you guys actually allow people to check it out, so we're trying to figure out a way to make that happen. But I totally understand what you mean, like, of coming in with this and then taking it away, like, what does it really mean after that, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so like in Ann Arbor, as you mentioned, there's the district library has, we're very privileged to have this, where you can just go in and if you have a library card, you can check out synthesizers, and not just cheap little ones, but like full-on multi-$1,000 ones. It's really cool. But along those lines, that's also one of the things that we're aspiring to as Coast Modular Collective, is to try and lower the barriers and lower the costs and the entry levels of those, so that if you want to, you can actually just build your own that way. But it's never going to be a humongous super synth, but it'll at least be something that you can get started with. But then that's the idea there is that it can be make and take, and so, yeah. But it is exactly a big problem with synthesis right now, I think.
We had questions,
Yeah.
comments,
Think there?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Unrecognized Library, you have to be a resident to get a library card, because I tried to do it when I was in.
Yeah.
That's right. But someone's actually made an entire album just using the instruments from the district library. But as far as accessibility goes, as much as I love Suzanne Gianni, I thought she did a great performance, I think she did her audience a disservice by kind of fetishizing the bootla and saying, this is what you need to do, because this instrument is sacred, and this is what, and I think, and I asked a question like, how many of you can afford this? Because nobody in the room could afford a bootla. And I think she kind of, didn't address the accessibility issue, which, no one can get a bootla, because they're $15,000. And, I really admire her music, and I think she's great, but I think that was sort of the wrong message. When we fetishize these super expensive instruments, and there's a lot of things out there that are accessible that, have the same kind of aesthetic.
Speaking of accessibility, later I'm going to be demonstrating a technique called live coding. It is going to be with open source software. So if you have a laptop, that's the barrier to entry. As long as it has a sound card and the right hardware, you can utilize the software. It's called, it's a script, it's called Tidal Cycles. And basically it uses Super Collider. You guys have heard of that software? So it's a software, Tidal Cycles comes with a super dirt, it's called a synthesizer, somebody made it. So if you're wanting to experiment with open source software, it's free. All you need is a laptop and the internet connection to download it. The installation is a little complicated, but if you know what Homebrew is, you can launch a Homebrew cast, that's what it's called, and it will install all the software dependencies for you. So I'm happy to talk about that later if anybody wants to learn more, but I don't know if that helps. And I know that it's complicated, the order of operations to launch it and everything, but once you get the hang of it, it's not so bad. But yeah, it's a software open source. That helps.
Yes. We have a question here?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of comment, it seems to me like a lot of music movements have kind of started through very tight constraints, specifically thinking about the start of electronic and techno and all of that, the 909 drum machine was the techno drum machine. Not because it was the best, but just because it was super affordable, because it sort of came about and sort of was a dud and kind of failed as a marketable thing. And so people were finding them in thrift stores and other places that. So it's more just because something is not maybe the best, but it's what you have. So if you can find a way to put yourself into whatever your setup is, if you can find a way to be as creative as possible with that, I feel that's a pretty important.
Yeah, and that almost ties it back to that idea of, are we the technology? And it's do you have to have the amazing instrument in order to make the best music? Or how much of that is what you're bringing to the table as well? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Joe kind of mentioned this that we guys are this open device or working towards this idea of making hardware more accessible, right? So we talked about that, Joe, and I did our thought. But it's also kind of an incredible time to be a person interested in making electronic music, right? I can go on Amazon for $100 or create a lab. It comes to the copy, it's a live using 8 channels of these incredible instruments that can load samples and do that. As long as I have a computer, I can do that. Or if I just want something free and open source, I can download VCD rack. And all this is predicated on the idea that you have a computer, but there's an 8-hour version of VCD rack for phones and iPads now. It's bonkers to have to be an electronic musician in terms of accessibility. Or you can do what Joe was, buy a $200 Polka and become a maestro of that instrument. You can just actually shred out one instrument that fits in the backpack. It's okay, that set match, like there it is, you know, like,
Well, there's the other end of-
have some gigantic, like $20,000 system to make incredible music.
That's the other end of Suzanne Johnny's $50,000 buy a Buchla thing, is you can do it with a $200 chord.
Right.
But I've noticed that there are lots of modular collectives popping up around the country. You guys are premier. Boulder, Colorado has a very robust one. And I think that modular synthesizers are pretty much America's favorite new midlife crisis. Because you looking for that thing, and oh, shiny buttons and blinky lights, I want that. And all kinds of people do this.
I mean, I don't know why you got into it.
I got into it because it was time to be reborn. And it's just one of those things that once you get started, you can build slowly. You can start with your $200 chord, and then, you know what, I want to get that $150 keyboard. Oh, look at that, I like that reverb unit. Look at that pedal. And you're just building a thing that makes it accessible. But BCB rack is definitely the way to go. That and pocket operators, I would say, are perfect ways to start.
Taking a step back from the actual technologies, that technology for electronic music allows the individual to become the everything that they need. So, if you play flute, you're limited in what you can do and how you can perform. If you play guitar, yeah, it might expand things a little bit, but a drummer by themselves is great, but it's not full ability to create an entire composition, an entire set of sound. And that's the one thing that the technology gives us as an affordance, is that you can be one person and sound like a million.
Right, yeah, and that's something that like Aaron and I were talking about earlier, and I think I want to loop Joo Won in on, is because you're programming software to do music, and I think we've kind of all talked about this sort of balance that we're trying to strike in terms between like what we automate and what we make the machines do versus what we're doing, and like how we impart us into the machine when we're automating. And there's another kind of dimension of like, if you used to have a band, that was a small community of individual people all talking together, and they all had their own unique quirks. But if it's all just you, just automating in software, then how do you account for that?
So something that I think about when I write music is I give things to do to computers only if it does better than the human. And if the human performance does better than something, then I assign that to human performance. So a lot of things that I automate or make an algorithm is something that computer can do perhaps better than us human performance. But if the things that I want to make is done better with the human, then I assign it to them. So I think that's kind of like a more decision maker question that I always ask. So something that I also want to emphasize is, even though we play electronic music, it's I want to spotlight human. That we as a human, what can we do? Awesome, right? And then use the electronics as to bring that up. But that's kind of like a competition decision. If something can be done by human better than electronics, then let us do it. But if not, let the computers do it too. Yeah. Did you answer your question?
Get A+.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just kind of ripping off that, like what you mentioned with like the people in the band. The way that I kind of like think about it is like you have each member and they contribute a certain sort of thing, But like when you're in a band together, it's almost like this whole like separate organism, I guess. If you think about the band like one thing as opposed to like a collection of people, you can sort of see it that way. So like when I'm making electronic music, I kind of see it as like I got this idea from somebody else a little bit, but just like it's like a conversation between you and the computer. It's sort of like the band concept, but like with the DAW or with the budget or whatever you use. So it's sort of like you're changing yourself in ways and changing the machine in ways, so you're kind of becoming like a separate sort of portrait, if that makes sense. You know, that's the thing that is, when you're not entirely just yourself being the instrument, and you're also working at this other thing that is itself, but you're kind of bridging the gap there, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it very well.
Yeah, and I think what we see a lot of times is with electronic musicians, it's like one person in a computer or one person in a modular. And we were kind of talking about this earlier, and I've seen you do some fun things with more of them up that collective where you all play together at the same time. So every once in a while you see like a duo or something like that, but this was like, what, you had about 5 people?
Yeah, so we kind of approach it like a jazz band. So we each have our modular, we assign each other, like, hey, you're gonna be the drummer, you know, you're gonna do the lead. So we're all kind of jumping in. We don't use the same clock or anything like that. It's completely free. And then we have what we call a conductor, and that person operates the main mixer and chooses what parts to bring in and out. Because 5 people playing all at the same time, it can get cluttered. But if you have someone kind of managing the composition the entire time, then it starts to take shape.
It's interesting you call it the mixer.
The conductor?
The conductor on the mixer. It seems to make perfect sense, because the one who's ultimately in control of who's up and who's down. That's fascinating.
So yeah, we wanted to approach it like a free jazz kind of.
Yeah, and if you found that yours, how is that different, I should just say? How is that different from just playing on your own, other than the obvious?
Well, when I'm on my own, I'm not taking anyone else into consideration. I'm maybe not thinking 10 steps or so ahead, or not steps, but bars. I'm not thinking about where, if I do this, how is that going to affect what this person is going to do? So it is kind of a conversation, or you are a part of this living thing that's happening, and you know that, well, what if I make this weird bass sound? Like, maybe this guy might change his lead sound.
Yeah, right. Or maybe you're not hearing yourself for a while.
Right.
And you,
I got it turned down before. So.
I'd like to add to that, just being new to modular, over the last 3 years, I've been in my cave playing all by myself, and then I met this guy at the end here, Henry, and him and I have been playing together, and I've been growing more. Obviously, we all know that we're all musicians, is what you take away, but it's been very satisfying for me, because I'm coming up with this stuff that I played 20 years ago too, on some sequencer or whatever. But it seems to me I have more of a palette, or it has more of a train to get on when I'm performing or playing a modular with someone else. And it's probably just been the last couple of months where we're not making great things, but it's starting, for me anyway, as a musician, or trying to be, and the modular is really helping me do that. But there's nothing better than playing with someone else, because I'm really finding myself listening and responding. I mean, we all know this, I'm saying very obvious things, but I haven't been a musician my whole life. I've only been getting into this seriously the last couple of years, and playing with someone the last year. And I think it's very interesting, something I've always wanted to do, but just never had the patience.
Well, actually, I've seen the rig, I've seen you play. You're not just playing one instrument. You're playing like 3, 4. You've got drums going, you've got sequencers, you've got keyboard. Yeah, that's the way I have in mind, is that I'm trying to achieve a music that cannot be played by one person. It must be played by either a machine that has multiple things going on, or it must be played by an ensemble. And so it's not just a voice I'm trying to tackle, it's 5. And that's, to me, that's rewarding, is getting together with this guy and making something that at the end of the 20-minute jam, we're high-fiving because we just pulled something off. It's like we snuck something in and managed to pull it off. And that feels really good. And I see a lot of people who have this little smirk on their faces, like, like what I just pulled off. And it's really interesting to see.
Another cool thing that happens in modular communities is we're sharing patches. So we're sharing, pieces of our imagination, pieces of our thought process. We all kind of think about things a little differently. I was just teaching someone how to program Pamela's workout, but like a sequencer the other day. So it's like, the conversation is different than in a band. You're like, even just hanging out with somebody and watching them patch will affect how you patch later. And maybe it's the equivalent of like learning a riff or something like that, and then taking that riff and using it later in your music, or whatever.
And we've had this conversation before. In fact, David and I, we're talking about this on the way here. It's like reproducibility and how do you communicate musically the language of how I'm doing something in my modular so that somebody else can do it too. And thinking that Western notation is not quite there for that. And I wonder if somebody who's like a professor in this kind of stuff has any ideas.
Sharing.
Yeah, so I've seen visual scores where it's not quite as literal, it's a much more subjective kind of thing. And then I've seen sort of like the sort of like diagram stuff, and there's also of course like the patches and everything's much more literal. But like, how do we as musicians share the concepts that we're doing in written form so that somebody can kind of reproduce it? And does that even mean anything?
I mean, with the YouTube page, I think having a visual record of what you're doing is always helpful. And then, with that in mind, having a written documentation. But I think it's a combination of two, like having a visual reference of, something that I can watch again and again and again to learn, right? Just like the way we learn to play some riffs by just playing the CD again and again and again. So yeah, I think we are very accustomed to actually like learning something from the media, right? So I think we need to take advantage of that. Even the patches, like I can watch a video and just try to recreate, right? So,
I wonder if that's why like YouTube and Instagram are so big in this community.
yeah, you learn. Yeah. I mean, some things that you cannot learn by just reading a book, I can learn in 10 minutes by watching somebody's video. So, we are living in a different educational world, and we take full advantage of the YouTube world as much as we can. Yeah, and then
Yeah, you've seen Ali. Ali is one of the guys in our Malbec crew. He does like modular Mondays where he'll start off with a completely blank canvas and patch live on YouTube every Monday in the afternoon. So check him out, Ali the Architect on YouTube. And it's, I don't know how he does it. It always turns out so good.
I know.
It always comes out so good. But you're putting those hours into kind of. It's different than like putting hours into like guitar or drum playing. It's a little bit of that, but then it's also you're patching from a feeling. And I think that's what people don't realize is a lot of this is communicating with the machine, and the machine is talking to you, and you're like, yeah, maybe I should put a LFO in that. And then the next thing you know, you're in this conversation, and it becomes alive.
Something I also something that we as a music creator community have to work on is also demystifying something to us. We perform on stage, but usually we don't, as an audience, audience do not see what's really going on. And sometimes it could be fun, but sometimes it's like for the audience. So I think we have to make an extra effort to actually connect that what we do is, and what we do here and what you guys listen as an audience has some kind of connection. So I think it's kind of a two-way effort. It's not just audience's effort, but our, music makers' effort to actually make a connection, right? That what you're hearing and what we are doing is, it's not something like super mysterious. There's, like when we listen to piano music, although I don't play piano well, I'm like, that's a good technique, I understand. So I think we need to make some conscious effort to do so to advance with our love with the video technology and love with the synthesis. That we have to make that effort. Yeah.
I like that. I was actually thinking about that. I was looking at some older pictures of Sun Ra playing the keyboard, and a lot of the photos are the keyboard's tilted forward, so you can see him actually playing, and everything is exposed, everything's transparent. So there's something to that.
Yeah.
And sharing that and that transparency.
Yeah. So we are almost out of time. I want to, did you have a question? Very special.
Kind of. So just a little bit like, I run a music store and also love electronic music, but a lot of our like customers kind of still just see like the dude standing on stage with his MacBook, and it's like that's not real music. It's just coming out of the computer, and it's easy to do, right? But like, I kind of see like the gap bridge being like modular stuff because it's actually like a visual thing. You can see like there's so much going on versus like somebody just playing on a computer, which has like equally a ton of stuff going on, but it's not as like visually communicable to the audience, So that's kind of one of the things that I see like bridging that gap between like electronic music isn't real music versus like somebody compared to like playing guitar or something.
Yeah, making it performative too. Yeah.
I have a comment that kind of relates to the whole conversation, which is I find computers kind of limiting in a way, and a conversation that I would like to see taking place more is I would like to see the modular community reaching out to the programming community and going, well, we can hook our stuff all up together. Why are these programs all incompatible?
That's why we have all these people.
This is how that's meant, actually. Yeah. Live coding, just like that.
Are there live coding novels?
Well, we're trying to form such a thing, but there is a movement where they do that, and when people gather to listen to their music, it's called an algo rave.
Nice.
So yes, there is a community for this, and we're trying to bring more attention to that to the Metro Detroit area. So far, the only two people I know of is myself and David over there. We do live coding, and I'm actually still experimenting with all of the things I'm doing. I'm more of a sample-based live coder. A lot of people do generative synthesis through the software. So yes, absolutely, there's definitely a programming connection there. Absolutely, for software engineering, for sure.
And in a weird way, one of the things that I've been looking at in a hardware sense, because I came from software into hardware, is like, why do I like modular better than a bunch of MIDI controllers and software? And so I've been actually working on like my own little like weird science project, like MIDI controllers that are more modular. And so it's something that like, I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but we could talk about offline.
Lots of stuff to talk over beer, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Just to drop two things in the conversation, there's a couple of things happening. So like the mono community has been like really kind of on that edge, I think, of bridging the gap between hardware and software, kind of blurring those lines. I think they've got a new thing called the Pro now. It's like designed to do more of that. This is the control voltage, generating events, and do stuff. So they're always kind of like on the leading edge, it feels like. But even if you are starting to look at some of the more mainstream like modular manufacturers, I think there's a recognition that flowing between the modular or hardware world and the computer is something that people want to do more. So think like the packets upcoming like CD MIDI controller thing, where you plug in CD and it generates MIDI out of that, or the actual sleeper stuff where you can like flow audio and voltage between the two worlds. I think that stuff is coming. I hope it comes faster and cheaper, but I feel like that's starting to happen.
Yeah, right now computers and with audio interfaces and modular systems with CV don't talk well to each other. You have to have a DC coupled interface. But there's software that's been out there like Expert Sleepers that uses software to do CV stuff. So they use audio outs from an interface to control any CV in a modular system. So I mean it's out there, but it's not. They don't talk well to each other. But I think that's being more developed, where a lot of people are using it, especially with mono and things like that. So are doing on.
right, so the last thing I want to mention as we wrap this up is that what you see on the stage here are people representing a few dots along the way on this I-94 corridor. We got all the way from Chicago to Detroit. And I've been really we've been trying to push this thing of like building this up. We need some people from Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids and things like that. And so if you are from along the I-94 corridor, please drop a line, let's get going and let's build this up. Because it's really easy for us to kind of share and do more community-oriented events along the way and help promote each other. So, all right. Did anybody else up here have any last words they wanted to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So the next thing.
I got one last thing. When it comes to gear and making music, you really got to decide if your goal is to make gear or to make music or to do both of some sort, because it's real easy to go far deep down in the software hole, the rabbit hole of the hardware. So if you really like to just get up and go and make music, the software that I'm going to show you tonight is pretty straightforward. Once you just get it installed, you just go play. Get some So, and not to say one's better than the other, but it's, you have to decide what's best for you and what you like to tinker with. And not everybody likes the overhead of programming that's on a controller, for example. Stuff like that. So, I'm somebody who just wants to make music. I don't really care how I set up my rig. I just want to do it.
Cool. All right.
So, thanks.
So on the schedule at 5:30, we have some workshops upstairs in the recording studio, and then at 7:30 we have a few live performances here.
7:30 concert here, 5:30 lectures and presentations at the Schaver, recording studio. You can ask Mike or anybody with at this point, anybody at NCMC, they can take you to the upstairs. Thank you so much. Once again, and then we'll do some more.